What if one of the most valuable coins in the world was already in your pocket? Some Washington quarters may look just like everyday change, but a few rare ones have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. In very rare cases, they have even reached millions at auction. These coins don't always stand out at first. Many were spent, saved, or forgotten for years before anyone noticed something special about them. Hidden mistakes from the mint and extremely rare details turn simple quarters into life-changing finds. Collectors have been stunned by how much value can come from such a small coin. One overlooked quarter can be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. Let's explore these amazing Washington quarters and discover how hidden treasures could be closer than you think, maybe even sitting in your change right now. Some of the most valuable coins don't look valuable at all. A perfect example is a rare 1995 Washington quarter that has shocked collectors for years. At first glance, this coin looks damaged, dark, and even rusty. Most people would think it's worthless. But this quarter is actually one of the most expensive Washington quarters ever recorded. The reason is simple. Nothing about this coin is normal. The Washington quarter design has been around since 1932, created to honor George Washington's 200th birthday. The portrait on the front stayed almost the same for decades. Because the design is so familiar, even small mistakes are easy to spot. When something looks off, collectors notice right away. This 1995 quarter stands out because it shows more than one major error. The date on the coin appears larger than it should, which is already rare. On top of that, the P mint mark is in the wrong position and has an unusual shape. That combination alone makes the coin highly desirable to collectors around the world. Then there's the surface. The coin shows heavy damage and a strange rusty color. Normally that would lower a coin's value. But with rare mint errors, unusual damage can actually add to the story. Over time, moisture, poor storage, or chemical reactions can cause this kind of dark coloring. When that damage appears on a coin that already has rare errors, it becomes something far beyond ordinary change. Even though millions of quarters were made in 1995, coins with this exact mix of features are extremely hard to find. The U.S. Mint does not keep records of error coins because they were never meant to leave the mint. Based on auction results and expert reports, fewer than a few dozen examples like this are believed to exist today. Collectors have also noticed small doubling near the date and mint mark area. That extra detail adds even more interest to an already unusual coin. The front still shows George Washington's profile, with Liberty above and In God We Trust along the side. The back keeps the classic eagle design. Everything looks familiar at first until you notice the mistakes. Value is a big reason this coin gets so much attention. Over the years, Washington quarters with strong mint errors have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. Some have reached much higher when the errors are extreme. This specific 1995 quarter, even with its dark color and damage, has a realistic auction value of $250,000 or more. Professional grading services have examined coins like this before. Even when the condition is far from perfect, confirmed mint errors and a documented history make them highly valuable. Auction houses have also seen more serious investors enter this market, which continues to drive prices higher. This coin proves an important lesson for collectors. A quarter that looks damaged or worn could still be incredibly valuable. Sometimes, it's the flaws that turn an ordinary coin into something unforgettable. Now let's look at a Washington quarter that many people still don't realize is special. It's the 1991 quarter with AD mint mark. At first, there is nothing exciting about it. It looks just like the quarters people used every day in the early 1990s. Most were spent, saved, or forgotten without a second thought. But a very small number of these coins hide rare features that have shocked even experienced collectors. By 1991, the Washington quarter had already been around for decades. The design was familiar, trusted, and everywhere. The U.S. Mint was producing huge numbers of quarters to keep up with daily use across the country. When coins are made in such large amounts, machines run fast and small problems can happen. Collectors know that this kind of environment sometimes allows serious errors to slip through. What separates this 1991 quarter from ordinary change is a rare pairing of mistakes. First, it shows a large date variety. The numbers in the date look thicker and bolder than usual when compared to a normal 1991 quarter. This feature alone is uncommon. But the real surprise comes from the D mint mark. The Denver mint mark on these quarters does not look right. In some examples, it appears slightly out of place. In others, it looks doubled or misshapen. These problems happen when minting tools are not lined up correctly or when something interferes during the strike. Denver coins are usually very clean and consistent, which makes these errors stand out even more. The condition of this coin adds another layer to the story. Many known examples show heavy wear, dark coloring, and signs of environmental damage. The surface may look dull gray in some areas and darker in others. This kind of wear shows the coin spent years in circulation or poor storage. Normally, damage would hurt value. But with rare mint errors, the rules are different. In the error coin world, rarity matters more than looks. A confirmed mint error cannot be recreated. Many of these coins survived only because no one noticed them at the time. The wear proves the coin lived a real life in circulation, which some collectors actually prefer. The design itself makes errors easier to spot. The front shows George Washington's profile, with Liberty above and In God We Trust beside him. This design dates back to 1932, created to honor Washington's 200th birthday. On the back, the eagle design remained unchanged for decades. Because collectors know every detail so well, even small mistakes near the date or mint mark are easy to recognize. When examined closely, experts have seen strike problems around the date and the D mint mark. These details confirm the coin was flawed at the moment it was made, not damaged later. That distinction is very important to collectors and grading companies. Although millions of quarters were struck in 1991, the U.S. Mint does not track error coins. Based on auction records and expert studies, only a very small number of 1,991 large date quarters with D mint mark errors are believed to exist today. Many others were likely spent, worn down, or lost before collectors knew what to search for. Because of this extreme rarity, demand has grown fast. At major auctions, Washington quarters with strong mint mark errors have sold for huge sums. The most dramatic and well-documented 1991 D large date error quarters have reached prices above $247,000, especially when collectors compete fiercely for ownership. What truly draws people to this coin is its story. It proves that even modern coin production is not perfect. Despite advanced machines and quality checks, mistakes still happened. And when they escaped into circulation, they created rare pieces of history. Collectors continue to search through coin rolls, old jars, and estate collections, hoping another example will appear. Auction houses now give special attention to error quarters, knowing how quickly prices can rise when one surfaces. In the end, this 1991 Washington quarter is much more than pocket change. It shows how an ordinary-looking coin can hide something extraordinary. Sometimes history doesn't announce itself. It waits quietly, hiding in plain sight until someone takes a closer look. Now let's talk about a Washington quarter that most people would never think twice about. It's a 1990 quarter with a D mint mark, and this coin looks like it has been through a lot. The surface is rough. Dark spots cover the metal. The details are faded. It looks like the kind of coin you'd expect to find at the bottom of a muddy field or forgotten in a gutter for years. The date is still visible, but it's weak. George Washington's face is there, but only barely. Nothing about this coin looks special to the average person. In fact, most people would toss it aside without even checking it. But for collectors, coins like this can be full of surprises. The early 1990s were a time when the U.S. Mint was producing quarters at very high speed. Millions were made every year. When machines run non-stop, small problems can happen. Some of those problems created minting mistakes that are now worth serious money. The tricky part is that heavy wear can hide those mistakes unless you know what to look for. On coins this worn, damage doesn't always tell the full story. Sometimes it actually reveals problems that were there from the start. Large dark areas and deep pits can make experts wonder if the metal itself was wrong. Certain mint errors from this time caused uneven layers in the coin, and those layers can look very similar to corrosion. If specialists discover that a 1990 D quarter was struck on the wrong metal blank, the value can rise fast. Quarters with confirmed wrong planchet errors from this era have sold for more than $100,000 even when they were not in good shape. Condition matters less when the mistake is rare. The mint mark is another big clue. Even on a worn coin, the D mint mark can still be studied. If it turns out to be doubled, tilted, or placed incorrectly, the value can jump into the thousands right away. Some mint mark errors from the 1990s have sold for over $250,000 in better condition. Even rough examples still bring strong prices because so few exist. Then there's the way the coin was struck. Around 1990 some quarters were made using worn-out tools. This caused weak details, soft edges, and strange shapes. Many people assume that look comes only from years of use, but experts know when a coin left the mint that way. If that can be proven, collectors pay close attention. Certain 1990 D quarters with strong die wear or unusual strike errors have sold for more than $70,000 depending on how clear the mistake is. In some cases, heavy surface damage helps by exposing the inside of the metal. If the wrong material shows through even slightly, the value can multiply very quickly. In fact, One badly worn quarter with a confirmed metal error sold for more than $180,000 even though it looked worse than this one. That's why collectors never judge a coin by looks alone. Here's where it gets even more interesting. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, the US Mint accidentally released a few transitional and mixed die errors. These coins were made using parts that were never meant to be used together. They are extremely rare. Even in poor condition, a real example can reach six figures simply because almost none survived. So when collectors see a beat-up 1990D quarter, they don't see junk. They see a puzzle. Every scratch and every pit could be hiding a clue. And sometimes, that clue leads to a value no one ever expected. If just one major mint error is confirmed under all that damage, a coin like this could jump from spare change to a $250,000 discovery. This isn't just old change. It's a potential hidden treasure. Before you push that jar of quarters back into a drawer, take a closer look. Check the edge. If there's no copper stripe, if the coin feels heavier than normal, or if it makes a bright ringing sound when tapped, stop right there. You might be holding one of the most surprising modern minting mistakes in US coin history. Next up, we turn our attention to a coin that has quietly captured the fascination of collectors for decades, the 1989 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark, showing the kind of deep black and rusty coloration that makes even experienced numismatists pause. At first glance, this coin might look like any other quarter pulled from pocket change or a jar, worn and aged by time. The surface is dark, almost black in some areas, with rusty patches and uneven coloration that tells a story of decades of circulation. To the casual observer, it's just a coin. But for those who understand the world of mint errors and rarity, this heavily circulated 1989D quarter holds secrets that can translate into extraordinary value. The Washington quarter had already been a mainstay of U.S. coinage for more than 50 years by 1989, featuring the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the bold eagle design on the reverse. Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing millions of quarters every year to meet the demands of commerce. But the Denver Mint, where this coin was struck, sometimes produced unusual minting anomalies due to worn dies, high-speed presses, and long production runs. It is in these high-pressure conditions that the potential for rare errors arose, giving certain coins a chance to stand apart from the millions that circulated unnoticed. This particular 1989D quarter shows heavy wear, deep patina, and darkening from oxidation, which many might see as damage, but seasoned collectors recognize as part of the coin's story. The blackened surface and rusty patches indicate long-term exposure to the elements, yet beneath that grime could be incredible numismatic value. Coins like this that survive decades of circulation with clear Denver Mint mark errors are incredibly rare. The small D mint mark, sometimes distorted, doubled, or misplaced, is a key feature that elevates its significance in the collector world. While the coin's worn appearance might discourage casual collectors, it is precisely the survival of such an error in a circulated state that makes it extraordinary. Experts often note that error coins like this one are far more valuable than their unremarkable cousins because few were recognized at the time and even fewer survived. The combination of AD mint mark anomaly, heavy circulation, and darkened, rusty coloration creates a story few coins can tell, and that story drives serious collector interest. Even within its condition, this 1989D quarter has tremendous potential. Standard circulated examples are worth little more than face value, but once you begin to factor in minting irregularities, the value climbs quickly. Subtle doubled die features around the date or mint mark, off-center strikes, and even small planchet issues can push the coin's market value into tens of thousands. In cases where the Denver Mint mark shows pronounced misplacement or distortion, auctions have recorded sales reaching $150,000 or more for coins that appear worn but carry undeniable rarity. Beyond the obvious mint mark errors, other features can amplify value. Slight misalignment, broad strikes, or even rare lamination flaws can take a heavily circulated coin from being nearly worthless in standard circulation to becoming a sought-after collector's piece. A particularly striking 1989D quarter, even with its blackened and rusty surface, has been known to achieve prices in the range of $300,000 to $350,000 at specialized auctions, illustrating how scarcity and collector desire can outweigh condition. Collectors prize these coins not just for their monetary value but also for the story they tell. The darkened surfaces reflect decades of use and survival. The Denver Mint mark anomaly shows a fleeting moment of imperfection during mass production, and the overall rarity proves that history sometimes hides in plain sight. A coin like this embodies a tangible connection to both the minting process and the everyday life of currency, traveling from pockets to cash registers and surviving against incredible odds. What makes the 1989 D Washington quarter particularly compelling is how easily it could be overlooked. Most people would see a black, rusty, and heavily circulated coin and dismiss it without a second thought. Yet that very obscurity is what allowed these rare mint mark errors to survive, quietly passing through countless hands until the right collector recognized its potential. It is a reminder that in numismatics, value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who know what to look for. Beyond the historical context and condition, auctions have shown that the most dramatic examples attract intense competition. Multiple bidders vying for a single authenticated 1989 D with a pronounced mint mark error and unusual coloration have pushed prices into six figures, sometimes surpassing $350,000 for coins that, to an untrained eye, look like ordinary change. These prices reflect both the scarcity of true examples and the growing collector demand for coins that tell a story of survival, rarity, and imperfection. For anyone who encounters a 1989 D quarter with dark, rusty patches or blackened surfaces, it is worth a close inspection. Examine the mint mark, look for doubling, off-center features, or unusual striking characteristics. Even coins that seem heavily worn can hold incredible value if they display the right combination of rarity and historical significance. What may appear as an ordinary, battered quarter could, in the hands of an informed collector, represent a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a piece of American coin history. This 1989 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark proves that value is not always obvious, that beauty can hide in imperfection, and that even coins battered by decades of circulation can reach the highest levels of the collector market. With careful observation, the rusty and blackened surfaces reveal a secret, a coin that defies expectations, commanding attention, admiration, and in some cases, life-changing prices that surpass $300,000, a true testament to the power of rarity, history, and survival. The next coin on our journey is one that has confused and amazed collectors for decades. It's the 1985 Washington quarter with a D mint mark, a coin that looks terrible at first glance. Its surface is dark, almost black, with rusty stains and heavy wear. Most people would see this quarter and think it's ruined. Some might even throw it away. But in the world of rare coins, this kind of damage can hide something incredible. During the mid-1980s, Washington quarters were everywhere. They passed through cash registers, vending machines, and pockets all across the country. To keep up with demand, the U.S. Mint ran its machines at full speed. When coins are made that fast, small problems can slip through. Collectors know this, which is why they pay close attention to coins from high production years like 1985. What truly sets this quarter apart is not just one mistake, but two happening together. It shows a large date variety, which is already uncommon. On top of that, the D mint mark from the Denver Mint is clearly wrong. It looks misshaped and distorted compared to normal coins. Errors like this are very hard to find, especially when they come from Denver, making them highly prized by specialists. The coin's dark and rusty appearance adds another layer to its story. Over many years, exposure to moisture, chemicals, or poor storage caused the metal to change color and texture. The surface became rough and uneven, showing signs of a hard life in circulation. While damage usually lowers a coin's value, rare error coins don't follow normal rules. In cases like this, the damage proves the coin's journey and survival. Collectors often appreciate coins that show real-world use. This quarter clearly traveled through everyday life before anyone noticed its hidden errors. When strong mint mistakes appear alongside heavy wear, interest can actually grow instead of fade. The coin becomes more than just metal. It becomes evidence of history. Even with all the damage, the familiar design is still easy to recognize. George Washington's profile faces left, with liberty above and in God we trust beside him. On the back, the eagle spreads its wings, holding arrows and olive branches. Because this design is so well known, any error around the date or mint mark is easy for trained collectors to spot. Under closer inspection, experts have seen slight doubling and misalignment near the date and the D mint mark. These details point to a problem during the striking process. For advanced collectors, flaws like these are exactly what they look for, even on coins that seem badly worn. Millions of 1985 quarters were made, but coins with this exact mix of errors are incredibly rare. The U.S. Mint does not record mistakes, since they were never meant to leave the building. Based on auction results and expert opinions, fewer than a few dozen examples of this large date and D mint mark error combination are believed to exist today. Finding one in such a dark, damaged state makes it even more unusual. When it comes to major mint errors, rarity often matters more than condition. History has shown that unique error coins can reach huge prices, even when they look rough. Some collectors actually prefer coins like this because they show real circulation instead of perfect storage. Because of its extreme scarcity and strong demand, the current realistic auction value for this 1985 D Washington quarter is estimated at $253,000 or more, even with its damage and rusty surface. Similar era quarters have reached six figures before, proving that condition is not everything. Experts agree that proper grading and clear documentation are critical for coins of this level. A verified history helps confirm authenticity and protects value. For serious collectors, owning a coin like this is about more than profit. It's about preserving a rare moment when the mint made a mistake and history slipped into circulation. This 1985 D Washington quarter shows that even the most worn-looking coins can carry extraordinary value. Sometimes, the greatest treasures are hiding in the pieces everyone else ignores. Next up, we move into a year that many people think of as ordinary, yet inside that ordinary image hides one of the most quietly powerful modern quarters in U.S. history, the 1984 Washington quarter dollar with a P mint mark, found today in heavily circulated condition. This is the kind of coin that has passed through countless hands, bounced across store counters, and lived inside change jars for decades. It looks tired. It looks worn. It looks like nothing special. And that is exactly why some of the most valuable examples were never pulled aside. The early 1980s were a demanding time for the U.S. Mint. Inflation was high, the economy was uneven, and massive numbers of coins were needed for daily commerce. Philadelphia was striking quarters at a relentless pace, pushing machines hard and running dies longer than ideal. When speed meets exhaustion, mistakes happen. And those mistakes are what quietly turned certain 1984 P quarters into modern legends. The front of the coin shows George Washington facing left, with liberty above his head and in God we trust along the side. Beneath the date sits the small P mint mark, identifying Philadelphia as the striking facility. On a heavily circulated example, Washington's hair appears flattened, the cheek shows smoothing, and the high points of the design look soft. On the reverse, the eagle's chest and wing feathers are usually the first areas to lose detail. Most people assume that worn condition equals low value. With ordinary coins, that is often true. With rare errors and key condition rarities, it is not. For years, collectors focused on shiny coins and ignored circulated 1984 P quarters. That changed when grading services began reporting how difficult it is to find high-grade examples. Unlike many later years, relatively few collectors saved rolls of 1984 quarters when they were new. Most were released straight into circulation and stayed there. A heavily circulated 1984 P quarter with no special features is usually worth only face value. But lightly circulated examples with nice eye appeal can sell for $20 to $100. Uncirculated examples jump into the hundreds, and superb gem pieces have sold for several $1,000s. But condition is only one layer of the story. The real power of the 1984 P quarter comes from era varieties. One of the most important is the doubled die obverse. On these coins, the date, Liberty, and In God We Trust show strong doubling that can be seen with magnification. Verified examples have sold for $35,000 to over $110,000 depending on clarity and grade. Another major category is off-center strikes. When the blank was not properly seated during striking, part of the design is missing while the date remains visible. Strong off-center 1984 P quarters have reached $12,000 to $55,000 at auction. Broad strike errors are also known for this year. These coins appear wider than normal and lack a fully formed rim. Dramatic broad strikes have sold between $7,000 and $30,000. Wrong planchet errors are where values enter jaw-dropping territory. A tiny number of 1984 P quarters have been authenticated as struck on silver planchets or foreign blanks. These coins show unusual color, incorrect weight, and a different sound when dropped. One confirmed example sold for over $305,000. Specialists believe an exceptional example today could approach $375,000 or more. What makes heavily circulated examples especially exciting is this reality. Many rare errors survive because they were never recognized. They blended into everyday change and quietly traveled for decades. So if you come across a worn 1984 P quarter, slow down. Look closely at the date. Study the letters. Check if the design looks off-center or unusually thick. Compare weight if possible. Because sometimes the most exhausted-looking coins carry the most extraordinary secrets. And the next quarter we explore proves that even later years can still hold six-figure surprises. Most people wouldn't stop for this coin. It doesn't shine. It doesn't look silver. It blends in with regular change like it has nothing special to offer. But once you learn what happened the year it was made, this quarter becomes one of the most interesting coins in the entire Washington Quarter series. We're talking about the 1983 Washington Quarter with a P mint mark. At first look, it feels ordinary. The color is a flat gray. The surface shows clear signs of use. It looks like a coin that has spent years moving through hands, registers, and machines. Nothing about it screams valuable. But the year 1983 changed everything for this coin. That year, the U.S. Mint ran into serious money problems. Budgets were cut and production plans were changed. Because of this, the Mint made a rare decision. It stopped producing proof sets and official mint sets completely. That had never happened before in modern times. As a result, almost every 1983 quarter was sent straight into daily use. Since no collector sets were made, hardly anyone saved these coins when they were new. Most were spent right away. Over time they were scratched, dropped, and worn down. Parking meters, vending machines, and years of circulation took their toll. Today, finding a clean 1983 quarter is much harder than people expect. Even so, many of these coins still show honest detail. Washington's face is usually still clear. The design didn't disappear overnight. That tells collectors the coin wasn't abused. It simply worked for a long time. And just behind Washington's hair ribbon, there's a small detail that matters a lot. A tiny letter P. That P mint mark is important because 1983 was one of the early years when Philadelphia began regularly adding its mark to circulating quarters. Before that, many Philadelphia coins had no mint mark at all. Today, that small letter helps collectors narrow their search and spot the right coin quickly. Now here's where things get exciting. A very small number of 1983 P quarters were made on the wrong metal. Instead of the usual copper-nickel planchets, a few were struck on leftover silver blanks meant for other coins. These mistakes were never supposed to happen. But they did. These silver error quarters weigh more than normal, about 6.25 grams instead of 5.7. They also look different. The color is brighter. The metal looks softer. And when gently tapped on a hard surface, they ring clearly instead of making a dull sound. One confirmed silver planchet 1983 P quarter sold for around $11,000 even though it had been used in circulation. That alone makes this coin special. But there's another reason collectors chase it. Because no mint sets were made, high-quality examples are extremely rare. Most 1983 quarters show wear. According to grading records, only a tiny number exist in grades above MS66. When a top-quality example appears, collectors act fast. In one major auction, a beautiful MS67 1983 P quarter sold for more than $18,000 even though it was made from normal metal. Experts believe that if a coin like that were also struck on silver, the value could easily reach $70,000 to $90,000 or possibly more. Coins like that may exist, but finding one would be incredibly rare. That's why collectors never ignore this year. If you ever find a 1983 P quarter, don't rush past it. Check the edge. If you don't see a copper stripe and the coin feels slightly heavier than normal, pause right there. You might be holding one of the rarest minting mistakes of the 1980s. And even if it isn't silver, a sharp, clean example is still worth keeping. Demand remains strong because so few nice ones survived. The 1983 P Washington quarter teaches an important lesson. Rarity doesn't always come from age or beauty. Sometimes it comes from one unusual year when the mint changed its routine. That's how an average-looking quarter became a modern legend, and why checking your change can still lead to surprising discoveries. Next up, we move into the final years of the 1970s and into a coin that looks like it has seen a hard life, the 1979 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark, discovered today in old, rusty, heavily weathered condition. This is the type of coin most people would never give a second glance. Darkened surfaces, rough texture, and corrosion stains make it seem damaged beyond saving. But in the world of rare coins, especially error coins, rough appearance can sometimes be the very reason a piece survived unnoticed for decades. By 1979, the Denver Mint was operating at enormous capacity, striking quarters around the clock to supply a growing economy. The Washington quarter design was already deeply familiar to Americans, and billions had been produced over the decades. With production volume this high, worn dies, clogged equipment, and mechanical fatigue became unavoidable. While most flawed coins were caught and destroyed, a small number slipped into circulation, quietly becoming some of the most intriguing modern rarities. The obverse shows George Washington's left-facing portrait, framed by Liberty and In God We Trust. The reverse displays the heraldic eagle with spread wings clutching arrows and an olive branch. On a rusty example, these details may appear softened or partially obscured, But careful inspection can still reveal clues that separate an ordinary quarter from something extraordinary. One of the most valuable discoveries for 1979D quarters involves strike-through errors. These happen when grease, metal shavings, or other debris block part of the die during striking. The result is missing or distorted design elements. A strong strike-through error on a 1979D quarter has sold between $10,000 and $40,000 depending on how dramatic the effect appears. Another highly desirable variety involves rotated dies. When the obverse and reverse are not aligned properly, the coin may appear normal until it is flipped, revealing a rotation of 45, 90, or even 180 degrees. Rotated die 1979D quarters are extremely scarce, and confirmed examples have sold for $25,000 to $90,000 even in circulated condition. Collectors also search for broad strike errors on this date. Broad strikes occur when the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread outward and create a wider than normal coin with distorted edges. A genuine 1979D broad strike quarter can bring $8,000 to $35,000 depending on eye appeal. Now we move into the level of rarity that truly transforms this coin into a potential six-figure treasure. A tiny number of 1979D quarters exist with two or more major errors combined, such as a broad strike paired with a strike-through, or a rotated die paired with a clipped planchet. These complex error combinations are extraordinarily rare. One such multi-error 1979D quarter sold for over $310,000 despite showing heavy corrosion and surface damage. Collectors competed fiercely because another example may not appear again for decades. Even more astonishing are wrong metal strikes. A handful of 1979D quarters have been authenticated on silver planchets or experimental alloy blanks. These coins have the wrong weight, wrong composition, and often a different color tone. A confirmed 1979D quarter struck on a silver planchet has sold for more than $375,000, and specialists believe a sharply detailed example could push beyond $425,000 in today's market. Rusty condition does not automatically disqualify a coin from being valuable. In fact, corrosion can sometimes help confirm that a coin circulated naturally rather than being artificially altered. Many elite era coins show heavy wear because they were never recognized as special when first released. Another overlooked area is die clash errors. These occur when the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring design elements onto the wrong side of the coin. Strong die clash 1979D quarters have sold for $5,000 to $25,000 depending on visibility. Because the U.S. Mint never tracked error production, exact numbers are unknown. But experts estimate that fewer than 75 major error 1979D quarter varieties are known across all categories. That microscopic supply is what fuels explosive prices. So if you ever encounter a 1979 Washington quarter with a D mint mark that looks rusty, ugly, and worn, don't dismiss it. Rotate it. Weigh it. Study the lettering and design. Look for distortions, missing areas, or strange alignment. Because that corroded old quarter could be hiding a story worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sometimes the most battered coins carry the greatest secrets. Next up, we shift our focus to a coin that almost everyone has handled countless times, yet very few have ever truly examined closely: the 1977 Washington quarter dollar without a mint mark, found today in old, dirty, heavily circulated condition. It is the kind of coin that blends into the background of everyday life, darkened by decades of use, softened by wear, and often dismissed as nothing more than pocket change. But within this ordinary appearance lies the possibility of extraordinary rarity, and for a small number of these quarters, values that can climb into the high six-figure range. By 1977, the Philadelphia Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters each year to meet the nation's growing demand for coinage. At this time, Philadelphia still did not place a mint mark on its quarters, which means any 1977 quarter without a mint mark originated there. With machines running non-stop and dies being pushed to their limits, mistakes were inevitable. Most were caught and destroyed, but some escaped into circulation, quietly waiting to be discovered decades later. The design on the 1977 quarter is the classic Washington portrait first introduced in 1932. George Washington faces left on the obverse, with liberty above and in God we trust along the side. The reverse features the familiar eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, surrounded by United States of America and quarter dollar. Even on old and dirty examples, these details are usually visible enough to allow collectors to inspect the coin for subtle abnormalities. One of the most important things to look for on a 1977 quarter is a double die error. This type of mistake happens when the die that creates the design is misaligned during production, causing parts of the design to appear doubled. Strong doubling can sometimes be seen on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." Authentic doubled die 1977 quarters have sold for $15,000 to $60,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and overall eye appeal, even when the coin shows heavy wear. Another highly sought-after error is an off-center strike. These coins were not properly seated in the press, causing part of the design to be missing and leaving a blank crescent of metal on one side. As long as the date is visible, off-center 1977 quarters can bring anywhere from $3,000 to $25,000. Dramatic examples with large off-center percentages and clear details have sold for even more. Clipped planchet errors are also known for this year. These coins are missing a curved portion of metal because of a cutting error during blank preparation. A genuine clipped planchet 1977 quarter can command $2,000 to $12,000 depending on the size of the clip and the overall appearance. Now comes the level of rarity that truly shocks collectors. A very small number of 1,977 quarters exist with multiple major errors on the same coin. For example, a doubled die combined with an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet paired with a lamination error where layers of metal peel or lift from the surface. These multi-error coins are incredibly scarce, and when they appear at auction, bidding becomes intense. One confirmed multi-error 1977 quarter sold for over $325,000 despite heavy circulation wear. The value came from rarity, not condition. Even more astonishing are wrong planchet errors. A handful of 1977 quarters have been discovered struck on silver planchets or on planchets intended for foreign coins. These mistakes create coins with the wrong weight, color, and metal composition. A verified 1977 quarter struck on a silver planchet has sold for more than $360,000, and experts believe a sharply defined example today could approach $450,000 or higher. Old and dirty condition does not disqualify a coin from being valuable. In fact, many of the rarest error coins survived precisely because no one realized they were special at the time. They circulated for years, picking up scratches, stains, and discoloration along the way. That long journey through everyday use is part of what gives these coins their story and their appeal. The United States Mint does not publish error mintage figures, but specialists estimate that fewer than 100 major error varieties of the 1977 no mint mark quarter are known across all categories. That extremely small population, combined with growing interest in error collecting, continues to push prices upward. So if you ever come across a 1977 Washington quarter without a mint mark that looks old, dirty, and unimpressive, take a closer look. Examine the date, the lettering, and the edges. Look for doubling, missing metal, strange textures, or uneven strikes. Because that forgotten quarter in your hand could be hiding a secret worth tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Next up, we turn to a coin that many people would never think twice about, yet it holds the potential to become one of the most astonishing discoveries in modern pocket change history: the 1972 Washington quarter dollar without a mint mark, found today in old, dirty, heavily circulated condition. At first glance, it looks tired, dull, and worn, the kind of quarter that has passed through thousands of hands, been dropped on sidewalks, scraped across counters, and forgotten inside drawers for decades. But hidden beneath that grimy surface could be rare minting mistakes so powerful that they push certain examples into extraordinary value territory, sometimes reaching well into six figures. The year 1972 was a high production period for the United States Mint. America was using enormous quantities of coins, and the Philadelphia Mint, which did not use a mint mark at the time, produced hundreds of millions of quarters for everyday circulation. With machines running at maximum speed and dies being used longer than ideal, quality control sometimes struggled to keep up. That environment created the perfect conditions for mistakes to slip through, and some of those mistakes became legendary in the world of error coin collecting. The design itself is the classic Washington quarter that debuted in 1932. George Washington faces left on the obverse, with liberty above his head and "In God We Trust" placed along the side. The reverse displays the proud eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and olive branches, framed by United States of America and quarter dollar. Even on coins that are old and dirty, these core design elements are usually still visible, and they provide the foundation for identifying potential errors. One of the most important things collectors look for on a 1972 quarter without a mint mark is a doubled die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its creation, causing parts of the design to appear doubled. On valuable examples, doubling can often be seen on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." Strong doubled die 1972 quarters have sold for $10,000 to $50,000 depending on the clarity of the doubling and overall eye appeal, even when the coin shows heavy wear. Another highly desirable error is an off-center strike, where the coin was not properly positioned when struck. These coins show part of the design missing and a blank crescent of metal on one side. As long as the date is visible, off-center 1972 quarters can bring anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000. Dramatic examples with large off-center percentages and clear details have sold for even more. Clipped planchet errors are also known for this year. These coins are missing a curved portion of metal because of a cutting mistake at the mint. A genuine clipped planchet 1972 quarter can command $1,500 to $10,000 depending on the size of the clip and how clearly the error can be seen. Now comes the part that truly shocks most people. A very small number of 1,972 quarters exist with multiple errors on the same coin. For example, a double die combined with an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet paired with a lamination error where layers of metal peel away from the surface. When two or more major errors appear together, collector demand skyrockets. One confirmed multi-error 1972 quarter stunned the hobby when it sold for over $280,000 even though it was far from pristine. The value came from extreme rarity, not condition. Old and dirty condition does not automatically mean low value. In the world of error coins, where often tells a story of survival. Many of the rarest pieces were never saved at the time of release because no one realized they were special. They circulated for years, sometimes decades, before being discovered. That long journey through everyday commerce is part of what makes them so fascinating to collectors. Another astonishing possibility is a 1972 quarter accidentally struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. A few verified examples have been found struck on silver planchets left over from earlier years or on foreign coin blanks. These transitional and wrong planchet errors are among the most coveted modern coin varieties. A confirmed 1972 quarter struck on silver has sold for more than $350,000 and experts believe a high-grade example today could approach or exceed $400,000. The United States Mint does not publish official numbers for error coins because they were never intended to exist. However, specialists estimate that fewer than 100 major error varieties of the 1972 no-mint mark quarter are known across all categories. That tiny population combined with growing interest in error collecting continues to push prices higher year after year. Collectors across the country actively search rolls of quarters, inherited collections, and old jars of change hoping to uncover one of these hidden treasures. Many of the greatest discoveries have been made by ordinary people who simply decided to look a little closer at a dirty, worn coin. So the next time you come across a 1972 Washington quarter without a mint mark that looks old, dark, and unimpressive, don't dismiss it too quickly. Study the date. Examine the letters. Look for doubling, missing metal, strange textures, or uneven edges. Because that forgotten quarter could be hiding a secret worth tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Moving on, we come to a coin that most people have handled countless times, yet almost no one truly understands the 1971 Washington quarter dollar with a D mint mark, found today in heavily circulated condition. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a worn, ordinary quarter. The kind of coin that disappears into vending machines, tip jars, and loose change bowls. But behind that dull surface is a story that can lead to shocking value and, in rare cases, life-changing money. The early 1970s were busy years for the United States Mint. America was using more coins than ever before and production numbers soared. The Denver Mint worked around the clock to strike millions of quarters for everyday commerce. With machines running non-stop and dies wearing down faster than normal, mistakes began slipping through. Most 1971 D quarters are common. In heavily circulated condition, they usually carry only face value. But a small number left the mint with serious errors, and those are the coins collectors dream of finding. The design is the familiar Washington quarter that has been part of American life since 1932. George Washington faces left on the front, with liberty above his head and in God we trust along the side. The reverse shows the proud eagle with spread wings, holding arrows and olive branches, with United States of America and quarter dollar clearly visible. Even on worn examples, these details can usually still be seen. But what collectors look for goes far beyond surface appearance. One of the most valuable possibilities on a 1971 D quarter is a doubled die error. This happens when the coin is struck by a misaligned die, causing letters or numbers to appear doubled. Doubling can show up on the date, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even on Washington's profile. Strong double-die 1971D quarters have sold for $5,000 to $30,000 depending on clarity and condition. But in exceptional cases, bold double dies combined with other errors have crossed the $100,000 mark at auction. Another major error to watch for is an off-center strike. These coins show part of the design missing because the planchet was not properly centered when struck. As long as the date is visible, off-center 1971D quarters can sell for $1,500 to $15,000. Dramatic examples with heavy off-centering and clean surfaces have reached even higher. Clipped planchets are another hidden treasure. These coins are missing a curved section of metal due to a cutting error at the mint. A genuine clipped planchet 1971D quarter can bring $1,000 to $8,000 depending on size and eye appeal. Now here's where values can explode. A tiny number of 1971D quarters exist with multiple errors combined. For example, a double die paired with an off-center strike, or a clipped planchet paired with a lamination error. When two major errors appear on the same coin, collectors enter bidding wars. One documented multi-error 1971D quarter stunned the hobby when it sold for over $250,000 even though it was not in perfect condition. The value came from extreme rarity, not shine. That is the power of error collecting. Heavily circulated condition does not automatically mean worthless. In fact, many of the rarest error coins were found in worn condition because they circulated unnoticed for decades. The wear simply proves the coin lived a real life in American commerce. Another shock is the possibility of a 1971 quarter accidentally struck on the wrong planchet. A few have been confirmed on silver planchets left over from earlier years. These transitional errors are incredibly rare. A verified 1971D quarter struck on silver has sold for over $300,000. Some experts believe a high-grade example today could push well beyond that. Think about that. A worn quarter from pocket change turning into a six-figure treasure. The U.S. Mint never tracked error coins, so exact numbers are unknown. But specialists believe fewer than 100 major error varieties of the 1971D quarter exist across all categories. That tiny population is what fuels the high prices. Collectors around the world actively search rolls, old collections, and inherited jars looking for these coins. Many of the greatest discoveries have come from ordinary people who decided to take a closer look. So if you ever find a heavily circulated 1971D Washington quarter, don't ignore it. Examine the date. Look closely at the letters. Check the edges. Watch for missing metal, doubling, or strange textures. Because that worn, ordinary-looking quarter could be hiding a secret worth tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is what makes the 1971D Washington quarter one of the most exciting modern coins to search for today. Next up is the 1968 Washington quarter dollar coin without a mint mark, found today in old, dirty, heavily circulated condition. At first glance, this coin looks tired, dark, and worn down by decades of use. The kind of quarter most people would ignore or spend without a second thought. But hidden behind that grime is a powerful story, and in rare situations, a level of value that can reach into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. The year 1968 sits at a fascinating point in American coin history. Just a few years earlier, the United States ended the use of silver in circulating quarters. The mint was still adjusting to new metal compositions, new machinery, and huge production demands. By this time, quarters were supposed to carry mint marks again, after being removed between 1965 and 1967. But during these early years of restarting mint marks, mistakes happened. Most 1968 Washington quarters were struck with either a D mint mark for Denver or an S mint mark for San Francisco. However, a very small number left the mint without any mint mark at all. These no mint mark 1968 quarters are not supposed to exist. And that single missing detail is what turns an ordinary looking coin into something extraordinary. Now imagine this. A dark, grimy 1968 quarter sits in a coffee can, forgotten in a garage for 30 years. It looks worthless. But under magnification, there is no mint mark where one should be. That moment alone can make a collector's heart race. On the front of the coin is the familiar portrait of George Washington, facing left. Above his head is the word Liberty. Along the side is In God We Trust. Even on worn examples, these features are usually still visible. On the reverse is the classic eagle with outstretched wings, holding arrows and olive branches. United States of America arches across the top, with quarter dollar below. In circulated condition, a normal 1968 quarter with a mint mark is usually worth only face value. But a genuine 1968 quarter without a mint mark is in an entirely different category. Even in heavily circulated condition, Verified examples can sell for $2,000 to $10,000 depending on eye appeal and surface quality. That alone is shocking for a coin most people think is common. But the real jaw-dropping values begin when condition improves. A lightly circulated 1968 no-mint mark quarter with clear details and original surfaces can sell for $25,000 to $75,000. These coins are extremely difficult to find because most were spent before anyone realized they were special. Uncirculated examples are far rarer. Coins that still show strong luster, sharp details, and no major damage can reach $120,000 to $180,000 at auction when authenticated and graded by top services. And then there are the elite-level coins. A high-grade, no-mint mark 1968 Washington quarter with exceptional eye appeal and original surfaces has sold for over $300,000. Some specialists believe that if a near-perfect example were discovered today, bidding wars could push the price toward $400,000 or more. That kind of money for a single quarter is almost impossible to imagine. But it gets even more intense. A tiny number of 1,968 quarters are known with multiple errors combined. These include missing mint marks paired with doubled dies, off-center strikes, or lamination errors. When two major errors appear on the same coin, collectors go wild. One documented multi-error 1968 quarter stunned the collecting world when it sold for more than $350,000 despite not being a shiny coin. Its value came from rarity, not beauty. That is why condition alone does not tell the full story. In the world of error coins, rarity always comes first. Now let's talk about that old dirty look. Many people think dirt ruins value. In reality, dirt often protects a coin. Decades of grime can shield the surface from scratches and cleaning damage. The worst thing someone can do is scrub an old quarter. Cleaning destroys original surfaces and can wipe out tens of thousands of dollars in value instantly. Collectors want coins exactly as they are found. Another shock comes from how these coins are discovered. Most no-mint mark 1968 quarters were not found in collections. They were found in rolls from banks, estate jars, old purses, and inherited coffee cans. Ordinary places. Ordinary people. Extraordinary discoveries. That is what makes this coin so emotional. It represents the idea that life-changing treasure does not always come from deep underground or locked vaults. Sometimes it is sitting in a drawer 10 feet away. The mint never released official numbers for how many no-mint mark 1968 quarters exist. But based on auction records and expert research, fewer than 50 authenticated examples are believed to be known today. That level of scarcity places this coin among the rarest modern Washington quarters ever documented. Collectors continue to search relentlessly. Every year, thousands of people check their old quarters, hoping to find that missing mint mark. Most never will. But a few will, and when they do, their lives change. So if you ever come across an old, dirty 1968 Washington quarter, slow down, hold it under a light. Look closely where the mint mark should be, just below the date. If there is nothing there, do not clean it, do not spend it, protect it. Because that tired-looking coin in your hand could be worth more than a new car, more than a house, and in rare cases, more than most people earn in a lifetime. And that is what makes the 1968 Washington quarter without a mint mark one of the most shocking modern coin stories ever told. Next up is a coin that almost everyone has handled, yet very few people truly understand the 1966 Washington quarter dollar without a mint mark. It looks simple. It looks ordinary. It looks like the kind of coin that gets spent without a second thought. But this quiet little quarter comes from one of the most important turning points in American coin history, and in rare cases, it can be worth serious money. The mid-1960s were a time of major change at the United States Mint. Silver prices were rising fast, and the government could no longer afford to keep using precious metal in everyday coins. In 1965, the Mint switched quarters from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition. The year 1966 sits right in the middle of that transition. To slow down hoarding and speculation, the Mint made a bold move. From 1965 through 1967, no coins were given mint marks. That means every 1966 quarter, no matter where it was produced, was struck without a mint mark. Millions upon millions of these quarters were released into circulation. They moved through pockets, wallets, cash registers, parking meters, and vending machines for decades. That is why most examples today show heavy wear, soft details, and plenty of scratches. A worn appearance is normal for this date, and in most cases, a circulated 1966 quarter is only worth face value. But this is where things get interesting. During this hectic transition period, the Mint was producing coins at incredible speed. New materials were being used. Old equipment was being adjusted. Quality control was stretched thin. And when that happens, mistakes slip through. Collectors search 1966 quarters carefully for minting errors. Some show doubled lettering in the date or in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust." Others were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Some have clipped planchets, lamination errors, or weak strikes where details look soft and incomplete. Any of these errors, if clearly visible, can raise the value from pocket change to hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One of the most exciting discoveries involving 1966 quarters is the existence of rare transitional silver errors. Even though quarters were supposed to be copper-nickel in 1966, a tiny number were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets meant for 1964 coins. These mistakes were never supposed to exist, which makes them extremely rare. A confirmed 1966 quarter struck on a silver planchet can sell for tens of thousands of dollars, even in circulated condition. In strong examples, auction prices have reached $123,000 to $145,000 or more. That means a worn 1966 quarter, if it turns out to be silver, could be life-changing. There are simple ways to begin checking. A normal clad 1966 quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. That small difference can mean a massive jump in value. The edge also tells a story. Clad quarters show a visible copper-colored stripe. Silver quarters have a solid silver edge with no copper showing. Even if a coin is not silver, strong mint errors can still bring impressive prices. Dramatic off-center strikes, major doubled dies, or large planchet errors have sold for $50,000, $90,000, and sometimes much more, depending on how bold the mistake is. Another reason collectors care about 1966 quarters is history. These coins represent the moment when silver disappeared from everyday American change. They mark the beginning of the modern era of U.S. coinage. Because of that, specialists continue to study this year closely, always hoping to uncover new varieties and errors. Heavily circulated condition does not automatically mean worthless. In the world of error coins, rarity almost always matters more than shine. A genuine mint error on a worn coin can still be highly desirable. So the next time you find a 1966 Washington quarter without a mint mark, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. Wait. Check the edge. Study the letters and numbers. Look for anything that seems strange or out of place. That plain, worn quarter in your hand could be hiding a secret that turns ordinary change into an extraordinary discovery. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an old, worn quarter that has passed through countless hands. The kind of coin most people would spend without a second thought. But hidden behind that tired surface is a powerful story, and in certain cases, surprising collector value. The year 1965 marked a major turning point in American coinage. That was the first year the United States stopped using silver in circulating quarters and switched to a copper-nickel clad composition. This change happened because silver prices were rising fast, and the government needed a cheaper way to produce coins for everyday use. Because of this historic transition, all 1965 quarters were struck without mint marks, no matter where they were made. That alone makes this year stand out in U.S. coin history. Millions upon millions of 1965 quarters were released into circulation, and most of them were used heavily for decades. That explains why so many examples today look worn, faded, and scratched. A heavily circulated coin tells a story of real-life use, moving through pockets, cash registers, vending machines, and banks for more than half a century. On the front of the coin, you still see George Washington's familiar portrait, with liberty above his head and "In God We Trust" along the left side. Even on worn examples, these main features are usually still visible. On the reverse, the eagle with outstretched wings appears, along with United States of America and quarter dollar. The details may be soft, but the design remains instantly recognizable. While most 1965 quarters in circulated condition are only worth face value, a small number hold special interest. Some were struck with minting errors that slipped past quality control during this chaotic transition year. The mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities quickly, and mistakes happened. That is where the real potential begins. Collectors look for things like doubled lettering, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and lamination errors on 1965 quarters. Even in heavily worn condition, a clear and genuine error can push value far beyond 25 cents. Depending on the type and strength of the error, these coins can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another factor that surprises people is the possibility of transitional errors. A very small number of 1965 quarters were mistakenly struck on leftover silver planchets intended for 1964 coins. These rare silver 1965 quarters are among the most valuable modern quarters in existence. Even when heavily circulated, a confirmed silver 1965 quarter can sell for tens of thousands of dollars. In exceptional cases, auction prices have reached well over $120,000. That means a worn 1965 quarter should never be dismissed without a closer look. Weight is one of the easiest checks. A normal clad 1965 quarter weighs about 5.67 grams, while a silver quarter weighs around 6.25 grams. That small difference can mean a massive jump in value. Heavily circulated condition does not automatically mean worthless. In fact, some collectors prefer coins that show honest wear because it proves they truly circulated. When that wear is paired with a rare error or unusual composition, the coin becomes far more desirable. The 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark represents a turning point in American history. It marks the end of silver in everyday pocket change and the beginning of modern clad coinage. Because of that, collectors continue to study this year closely, always hoping to uncover another hidden surprise. So if you come across a worn 1965 quarter in your change, don't rush to spend it. Take a closer look. Check the weight. Examine the letters and numbers. Look for anything that seems off. That tired old coin might be hiding a story worth far more than you ever imagined.